You're such a good girl. All right, guys, welcome back to my channel. We had some technical difficulties before, so I'm going to restart the stream. We're going to start from scratch here on my 2 a.m. stream about dialysis. Now, this is not going to be a political stream, guys, so we're going to be talking about, health today. And I just wanted to put my thoughts out there, and I think that this could help anybody that is going to one day maybe have to deal with picking and choosing between what kind of dialysis they want to go with. So this is going to be a very, very targeted stream, but maybe you guys will find this interesting. So, welcome to my channel. So I wanted to start by talking about kidney failure, what it is, end-stage renal disease, talk about how I was diagnosed, and then we'll talk about the difference in the different types of dialysis, the pros and cons, because I've done 3 of them so far. So I think I'm an expert now in dialysis. So the first thing is we got to understand what the kidney's function is for the human body. And the kidney really has 3 primary functions. All right. Now, I'm not a doctor, so talk to a doctor if you want better information. But the 3 main functions of the kidneys are to filter out waste products. Okay. So when you eat foods, when you exercise, when you exist, your body produces waste products, and your kidneys are responsible mostly for removing the bad stuff and keeping the good stuff. For example, creatinine is a byproduct of muscle breakdown. Now, somebody who lifts weights like me, we're going to have more creatinine than someone who doesn't lift weights. It's the kidney's responsibility to filter out that byproduct. There's also something called BUN. There's also urea. There's uric acid. There's all these different byproducts, and your body uses the kidneys to filter them out. The second thing that your kidneys do is it manages fluids. So you drink, your kidneys process the fluids, you urinate it out. If your kidneys do not work, you will withhold too much fluid, which will increase your blood pressure, which will make your kidneys have to work harder as well as your heart. It's all tied together. It's pretty crazy. And the third thing is your kidneys are responsible for creating hemoglobins, which are red blood cells, part of the red blood cell system in your body. So those are the 3 things. If you don't have functioning kidneys, you lose those three capabilities. Really bad stuff. Now, one symptom of potential kidney problems is gout. Now, gout can really be caused from 2 reasons, okay? Number 1 is your diet is shit, and you're eating too many foods that contain something called purines. Purines convert to uric acid. If you have too much, it can cause gout. You might have healthy kidneys, but you might have just overdone it with the purines. The second thing is your kidneys are shot, and it can't filter out a normal amount of purines. For me, I had my first gout flare-up in 2018. I should have known then that I had a major problem. I should have known then. They diagnosed me in Vietnam for the first time when I got my first gout flare-up. And it was very confusing to me because it felt like I broke my ankle. Felt like I broke my toe. But I didn't. And I really could not figure out why I was in so much pain. And then they diagnosed me in Vietnam. In 2021, I had one of my worst gout flare-ups in my elbow. And so you guys can see what that looks like. It looked like this. That's my elbow. I could not bend my arm. That's gout right there. That's gout. It looks like a baseball in my elbow. Couldn't bend my arm for about 3-4 days. And I required a lot of intervention. I was in the middle of a jungle, so I couldn't even get to a hospital. And I had to make do with the hospital staff, at the hotel staff. It was crazy times. A lot of ibuprofen, a lot of That's really all I could have at the time. That's all we had access to was ibuprofen. So fast forward to this year, 2022, I went to Red Lobster in March after a Trump rally. And the next day I woke up with a very sprained ankle. And this was the start of probably my worst gout flare-up of all time, where it was the most unbearable pain of my life. I saw a teledoctor through the internet who gave me prednisone, which is a steroid. And that helped a little bit, but ultimately I had to go back on the gout meds, which after 2 weeks finally resolved the flare-up. Then after about 24 hours of relief, I noticed that I had a hard time urinating. The pain in my left foot came back, but it was a burning pain, something like I never felt before, not like a gout pain. And so for about 2.5 months, I was hopping back and forth between Mexico and Florida. And in Mexico, I was able to self-medicate. I was able to get everything over the counter for myself. Ibuprofen, prednisone, gout meds. I was just pumping myself with whatever I could. And after about 2.5 months of limping, being in pain, being bedridden, unable to go to the gym, unable to walk, I finally decided to go to a doctor in Mexico to get my blood drawn. And let me tell you something, guys. I really did not want to get my blood drawn. I was terrified. I told the doctor I didn't want to do this, but they made me. And very quickly, they determined that I had kidney failure. There was no question about what this was. Every single toxin marker was at minimum 8 times higher than the high end of what it should have been. So, for example, if 25 was the high end, I was at a 200. My blood was basically sludge. And as a result, the circulation in my body, the minerals, the oxygen, everything was failing, which explains all of my symptoms that I had in the months leading up to my diagnosis. Now, a lot of people ask what those symptoms were. What did I feel? Well, obviously, it was the gout flare-up. Once the gout resolved, it was the left foot burning. It was my left foot turning purple. It was my left foot itching. For some reason, it was only my left foot at that time. Also, food started to taste metallic to me. I remember going to Chipotle, which I was going to all the time, and I couldn't eat it anymore because every time I took a bite of the chicken, it tasted like metal, and I didn't know why. Also, urinating started becoming difficult. I would stand in front of the bathroom, standing in front of the toilet, waiting to pee, and it wouldn't start. And I'd have to focus and relax at the same time. And finally, I would start to come out, and it would be very weak flow. And I thought that was really strange. And in hindsight, now I know my kidneys were basically a sponge wringing itself, trying to work. I also noticed in the past couple of years, every time I would drink alcohol, and I remember when I would drink alcohol, I would drink cocktails, 8 ounces of cocktail, 9 ounces. Then I would drink a lot of water. But I'd feel bloated every time. I'd feel like my stomach would be bloated. That was my body unable to filter out the liquid. I was consuming more liquid than I could release. That was that symptom. I didn't know that. There was also a few times I'd wake up hungover and I couldn't feel my legs when I'd walk to the bathroom. It just felt like I was a floating body. It was really scary, actually. There were other times where I felt weak, lightheaded. I'd have to sit down after moving a couple of feet. I would be winded going upstairs because I thought I was out of shape. But it was also it was mostly because my hemoglobins were very, very low. My body was oxygen deprived, which is crazy. What else was there? Not to get too personal, but I was definitely having erectile dysfunction, which was weird because, I'm Latino and we don't experience that. I'll say, and this is going to be very personal, I'll say that my semen production was very low. I could tell, it was very strange. I was not releasing the normal amount that I was used to. which was also related to my kidney function. Who knew? I had no idea. I basically probably could not have gotten someone pregnant at the time if I tried, is my guess. I don't know. And then I would also cramp a lot in my legs, like I had just worked out like crazy, which was weird. A lot of cramping. So I had all these individual symptoms happening over the months leading up to my diagnosis. And that basically my body was shutting down bit by bit. I ended up finding out that I was severely anemic, which is when you have low hemoglobin production. Unfortunately, this week, I am back to being severely anemic. I don't know if you guys could tell, but my hemoglobins, which should be at a level of 15 if I was healthy, they plummeted from a 12 down to a 5.5 again. And the symptom I had this week was that my lips were really chapped, and I ended up getting like a blister over here on my lip, which is a sign of anemia. So right now I'm dealing with that with the doctors right now. May have to get more blood transfusions later this week. I don't know yet. But I will say that they did give me a shot of hormones a couple days ago, and it does take 20 days for that to kick in. So I might be okay in 20 days. I don't know. We're just waiting and seeing right now. But I also might need some transfusion soon, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but that would require me to be hospitalized again for a couple days, which is really, really annoying. But we'll see. I went to the gym last couple days. I feel fine. I did a nice little juicy shoulder workout today with the resistance bands. But let's talk about the difference in dialysis types, which is what I wanted to put this video on for people that might be going through it, like me. So what is dialysis? Well, let's you know what? Before we get into this, let us Google what dialysis is. Dialysis definition, so we can all be as educated as possible. Kidney dialysis, the process of removing excess water, solutes, and toxins from the blood in people whose kidneys can no longer perform these functions naturally. This is referred to as renal replacement therapy. So there you go. The first one was done in 1943. So this technology has been around for quite a long time, which is it really is amazing. So that's what dialysis is. It's basically replacing your kidneys when you don't have them anymore or they can't function anymore. Now, let's talk about real quick what can cause kidney failure. There's a lot of different ways to cause it. One of the ways is drug overuse. You can have drugs or some kind of medication or chemicals that can shut down your kidneys. Ibuprofen with repeated use can damage your kidneys over time. So keep in mind, be very careful with how you use NSAIDs, ibuprofen. Another thing is you could also have some kind of immunodeficiency or disease where your body attacks the kidneys. That's another thing that they have. One is called, I think, IgA. So that's a second type of kidney failure, okay? The third is high blood pressure, hypertension, which basically means that you're forcing your kidneys to work harder and process more blood than it should. So you basically damage your kidneys. That's what happened to me. Mine got damaged through hypertension. I went through all the tests to find out if I had any underlying diseases, immune problems. I did not. So that's both good and bad. The good news is if you can manage your hypertension, you can slow down the progression of the disease. The negative thing is a lot of times it takes medication to manage your hypertension, and those meds can damage your kidneys. So no matter what, your kidneys are going to get damaged either through hypertension or through the management of the disease. It's crazy. So I was screwed no matter what, but I really screwed myself by not going to the doctor for 13 years. So that's the real solution, is go to your doctor, keep an eye on your vitals, and you can slow this progression or ultimately even avoid it. Had I known that I had kidney disease, I probably could have changed my diet, drank more water, drank less alcohol, eat less sodium. There are things that I could have done to protect my kidneys longer, which I did not do. So once you're diagnosed with kidney failure, you're going to be put on dialysis. It is the only way to manage and live at that point. Now, just to give you guys some numbers, your kidney score is based out of a 0 to 120. And that number is called GFR, glomerular filtration rate. And that tells you how well your kidneys are functioning. Now, if you have healthy kidneys, your number is going to be above 100. So 100 to 120. 120 is like a newborn baby's kidneys, fresh out of the factory, right? Once you get below 15, which is almost 15% or less function, that's when you have to start going on dialysis. By the time I presented to the hospital, I was at a 1% function. So I was down to the final breath of kidney function, 1%. My kidneys were shot. I had no choice. The doctors told me that I was days within death, if not weeks. Because what they said is the toxins were so high in my blood that there was going to be a moment where I would go to sleep, take a nap, and I would not be able to wake up, which is scary, really scary to think about. I try not to think about it. Since I've been on dialysis, I've been able to gain about 7-8% function. So I'm back up to like 8%, but I'm not going to be getting any higher than this. And to be open, I don't really produce much urine anymore. There are days where I don't pee for 24 hours, which is weird. And then there are some days that I might pee once, and it'll be very little, whatever. So let's talk about dialysis, the different types. This is what I want to really talk about because people choose between hemo and peritoneal. Those are the two main ones. And I've done both, so I'm a bit of an expert now. Now, before I get into hemo versus PD, I want to talk about the emergency treatment they gave to me. So when I presented to the hospital, and this was back in May, in early June, they had to give me an emergency medical treatment, emergency dialysis. So this is what they do. They put it through the femoral artery in the leg on your right side. The catheter goes in here, and this gives you access to blood flow. As soon as they gave me my first treatment, I remember being wheeled into the dialysis ward, and I'm in the room, and I just asked my nurse, am I going to die? And she said to me, you're far from that stage. Don't worry about that right now. Let's just clean your blood today. And she put me into the machine, hooked me up with the catheter, and got to work. Now, some people report feeling it. Let me tell you this. When they put the machine in the first time to start cleaning my blood, I had audio hallucinations. Okay? I don't know what the hell is going on, but I'm laying in the bed, and I kept hearing somebody coughing in my ear. I don't know why it was a coughing noise, but it was a coughing noise in my ear. Like somebody was literally, like Joe Biden was behind me coughing on me. And I kept going like, what the fuck is that? Is someone here? There was nobody there. But it was my body, probably just my brain just spazzing out because of the, thank you so much, Ken. My body just dealing with being cleansed. And I just remember thinking the entire time, looking up at the ceiling, looking at this machine that's keeping me alive. Like, I just kept thinking about my dogs. Like, you know, these are my kids. And I kept thinking about my dad. But then the one thing I also thought about was like, maybe I'll see my mom again, right? Because she passed away in 2009. And that gave me like peace of mind, actually, that I could see I could be reunited maybe with people that I've, you know, lost in my family that I wanted to see again. But there's all these thoughts that I thought about, you know, should I have had a living will? How come I didn't do a living will? You know, you start thinking about all the things you didn't get to do and places you didn't get to see and traveling and all that stuff. And then they, unplugged me 4 hours later after my first session. And I felt pretty normal. But the one thing I did notice was that my left foot magically healed. I kid you not. My left foot, when I started the treatment, was purple, swollen, itchy, dry. And then all of a sudden it was normal. It was the most bizarre thing. I did not have a normal foot for 4 months. My left foot did not look normal for 4 months. And I could finally see the veins again in my left foot. It was such a beautiful moment. I was like, this is amazing. And that only lasted for a few days, because then all of a sudden my legs just started going nuts. Knees blowing up, feet blowing up again. My body was just processing and going through hell, trying to adapt. So whatever. So the first one is the femoral artery. And this is just temporary. They kept this one in me for about 2 weeks. That's it. Now, this is just temporary. Nobody walks around with this catheter in their leg, okay? This is only done in the hospital while you're there. Now, once you are out of the hospital, you have really 2 options, okay? The first option is hemodialysis, which is typically done in a clinic. So when you're driving around wherever you live, you might see places called DaVita. DaVita, I think, is the biggest one. Or Fresenius. Fresenius is what I'm using now. But DaVita is the biggest in-center clinic. This is where you go to a place, you sit in a chair, and there's a lot of other people there with you. Okay? It's like a shared room. There's nurses, there's doctors, there's nutritionists. They do it all for you. You basically go in a chair, you bring a blanket, you sit down for 4 hours in that chair, and you let the process do what it's got to do. Now, this is what it looks like. This is a chest catheter, which is what I had. This is the catheter that's done through the chest. Now, you insert it, and it basically goes into your heart, as you can see here. That's how it accesses the blood flow through the heart. And it's got 2 little ports. Now, I don't have it anymore. They took mine out, but that's the scar. This is where it went in. Okay. So basically, what these ports are is, one is in and one is out. So once they hook you up to the machine, there's this big machine that sits next to you in the clinic. Those are your kidneys. And literally, you have the tubes in your hands. You see the blood coming out of one of them, going through the machine, and then the blood comes back in through the other catheter. So it's input, output. You sit there for 4 hours. Now, typically, you do 3 sessions a week. So it's 12 hours you're in that chair. And in those 4 hours, each session, they can take out about 3 liters of fluid out of your blood, plus all the toxins. But they take about 3 liters of fluid. So what happens is, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're getting 3 liters of fluid removed, which totals to 9 liters a week. So you're getting 9 liters of fluid removed every week through your blood through this machine, 9 liters. So one of the most important parts of hemodialysis when you're in this is fluid management. I basically had to make sure that I had no more than 1.5 liters of fluid every day, which not a lot of fluid, because that includes with the fluid in your food as well. Okay. So that's one of the biggest challenges of hemodialysis is you're only getting cleaned 3 times a week. So Saturdays and Sundays are very tricky because you basically have to survive for 2.5 days with no fluid removal from your Friday to your Monday treatment. Now, the pros of hemodialysis are that it's a very sterile environment. These nurses are very good at keeping their hands clean, keeping the environment clean. So there's a very low risk of infection. That's the good news. The bad news is when you have this catheter into your chest, you cannot take any more showers, because if you get that wet and bacteria forms, it has direct access into your heart. And if that gets infected, that's really bad for your body. So while it is beneficial that you're in a sterile environment and the nurses are very clean and they're using all the lotions and the antibacterials and all that stuff, you have to be responsible once you leave the clinic. No showers, no sweating, no going in the rain. So you have to be very, very careful. I'm going to tell you guys this. I did not shower for about 3 months. Okay? I felt so disgusting for 3 months. I would have to go to the sink with a hot towel and give myself a sponge bath every day. It was disgusting. So those are some of the pros and cons of hemo. The other thing is, when you're putting all your kidney function in 2 days into 4 hours, it's very traumatic to the body. So a lot of times, as soon as you leave the clinic, you get the crash. So I would basically have to drive myself home, which was a brutal drive because I was exhausted. And I would just sleep 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. My sleep schedule was horrible. I really only had 3 days a week to myself. I had Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3.5 days is what I had to myself, because Monday, Wednesday, Fridays were committed to dialysis and then feeling like shit. So, that's basically it. The other thing is, it's pretty depressing going into the clinic because most people that have kidney failure are senior citizens, morbidly obese, or very unhealthy. They look like dead people walking, most of them. I don't look like the average kidney failure person. Let me tell you that. So, there's that as well. But the benefit is your home doesn't have to have supplies, medical supplies. Your home could be your home. You don't have to worry about it. So, hemo, I did have overall a pretty good experience with hemodialysis. But here's where it gets a little complicated. Now, I had the hemo done through the chest, but that is only a temporary solution. They only want you to have that into your chest for a couple months at a time because, again, the risk of infection. So the way they want you to really do hemodialysis is through your arm. Okay? It's through the arm. And typically it's called an AV fistula. So let me show you guys what that looks like. I want to keep this one open. AV fistula. So this is also hemodialysis as well, all right? This is also hemodialysis, but this is for the permanent version of it. So basically what they'll do here is they will connect an artery to your vein. It takes about 2 months for it to mature, as they say. And this is the way they want to give you access, because it basically moves access away from your heart into your arm, which makes it much safer infection-wise. So this is the solution that they have. Now, for hemo, this way, you can either do it in a clinic. So same thing as they did it through my chest, except this time they have to do a needle every single time. Every single time they had to do a needle. For the chest, no needles. It's just plugs. But for this, it's a needle every single time. So over time, it builds a lot of scar tissue here in your arm. Now, what does that end up looking like over time? It can end up looking like, let's see, like this. It looks like there's worms underneath your arm. You see that? Oh, I'm sorry, but I think it looks disgusting. I think that looks so disgusting. And the reason why I did not choose this method was because, number one, I lift weights. If you do the arm access, you can only lift 10-pound dumbbells max because they don't want you to damage the vein. So for me, even though I generally do light weights, I would not be able to do any chest workouts with more than 10-pound dumbbells, which is horrible. So my doctors all agree, due to my lifestyle, this would not work for me because I am fit. I am fitness oriented. So this does matter to me. The second thing is, on a superficial level, I'm very thin skinned in my arms. You could easily see my veins. Doctors love giving me the needles because they love my veins in my arms. This would look really grotesque on me. I'm not going to lie. This would look really grotesque. And, if you guys wanted to ever go to TikTok and you want to type in AV fistula, you will see some really disgusting examples of what this looks like. So they don't all look this bad, just to be honest, but they can look this bad. Oh God. So some doctors did want me to do this, and I just said, hell to the no. I'm not doing that. The other thing is, in my opinion, you lose the ability to be private about it. I'll tell you guys a quick story. When I was in Thailand many years ago, 2019, I think, I went on a date with the girl, and her arm had that. And due to language barriers, she couldn't explain to me what it was in her arm. But she had kidney failure from a young age, and her arm was really, I'm not gonna lie, it was a turnoff. It was a really big turnoff. And a couple months ago, she actually saw my Instagram post, and she said, "Hey, did your kidneys fail?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "That's what happened to me." And I finally was like, "Oh shit, that's what that was." My goodness. So I don't want that, because the thing is, you lose your ability to be private about it. You can't wear short sleeves. People see it all the time. And I don't like that. I want to be able to be, admit when I want to admit it. So that's hemodialysis. Again, just to recap, chest access, but that's only temporary. The permanent access is through your arm. And that's what that could end up looking like. Now, you could either do it at home, where you have to put the needles in yourself, or you do it in the clinic where they do it for you. But hemodialysis is always through the blood. And to me, the worst part was the crashes. I would get a lot of crashes, and then also I would cramp up a lot in the facility. I can't tell you guys how many times at the end of the treatment, by hour 3.5, after 3 liters of fluid was pulled off my body within 3 hours. That's a lot of fluid to lose. My legs would just cramp up, and I'd be screaming in pain, punching the chairs, screaming, "Help, help, somebody help." And they would have to send 2, 3, 4 nurses over at a time. I kid you not. And I'm so thankful to these angels. But the nurses, one nurse would stretch my left foot, one nurse would stretch my right foot to get the cramps out of my legs. And then another nurse would start injecting me with saline solutions to replace fluid. And it was a nightmare sometimes. There was some nightmare days. And, part of me wishes I caught it on camera so you guys could see how the lows got. But, it wasn't for cloud. It was legit pain. So that's hemodialysis. And ultimately, what happens is you're tethered to the clinic, which means it's very hard to travel. So I decided to switch over to peritoneal dialysis, which is stomach dialysis. And I want to show you guys what that looks like. So this is PD. It is done through your peritoneal cavity, which is still crazy to me that this stuff exists. It is wild to think that this exists. And basically, the way this one works is they installed a catheter into my stomach over here. So to show you guys what that looks like, it is a plug that goes to my stomach. It's literally a plug. See, I'm plugged in to this machine. And this only has one cable, input output. So this one cable does it all. Now, I disconnected at the end of my treatment over here. So this will dangle, but I usually would just put this in my pocket throughout the day. It's crazy. So the way this works is I have a machine. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but there's my machine in the back right there. You see that machine? Right there. There it is. And on top of that machine are the bags of fluid called dialysate. And that machine is called my cycler. Now that cycler basically is programmed to fill me up and then empty me out. Fill me up, empty me out. It's timed. So it fills me up for an hour. It fills me up with the fluid, and the fluid sits in my body for an hour and a half. 2 liters of fluid is currently in my cavity right now. And so you guys know what 2 liters is. It's like a regular bottle of soda, 2-liter bottle of soda. That's a lot of fluid. The first few times you feel it in your body, and you feel out of breath. You feel full. You feel like you just had a huge meal. And after about an hour and a half, it empties out through the sink. So it'll empty the fluid out through here, which goes into my sink, down the drain. Now that ends up looking like urine. It goes from a clear fluid when it's unused into my stomach, cleans everything, pulls out excess fluid, goes down the drain, but it's yellow, just like urine. It's crazy. It really looks like urine. And that's called one cycle. And then it fills me up a second time. Same exact thing. Fills me up with the dialysate, 2 liters, hour and a half, down the drain. And then it fills you up once again, third time. Clean fluid in, 1.5 hours, cleans me out, takes excess fluid, down the drain. It does this process a total of 5 times. So if I plug in at midnight, I am stuck on the machine until 9:30 in the morning the next day. 9.5 hours every day. I can do this whenever I want every day. I can do it 9 to 5 if I had a job. I could do it while I sleep. I just do it while I sleep because I'm sleeping. It's the best time. Theoretically, I can travel with it. I have to send my machine, bring my machine with me, and I'd have the company ship the fluid to the location. So it is possible to travel. I haven't really done anything yet with it. I've done road trips, but I haven't done international trips. I am thinking about going to Mexico soon to test out what it's like traveling with my system. I might just do 2 weeks, just do a quick little getaway just to test drive it. And if I'm able to do it, I then might go to the Philippines next to test drive that, which to me would be a very bold move, but I cannot live my life not traveling, because traveling has been the world to me. It's been the most important thing I've done in my life. And I can't let this disease take that from me fully. I just can't. So more to come on that. The thing I like about PD is that, number one, I'm in control. I'm self-sufficient. I do this every night by myself. I don't need anybody else, which is great. I love that aspect of it. I also love that it's every day, and it pulls out about 2 liters every day from me, so I can drink more fluid. I have more flexibility with my fluid. I basically had 4 cans of fluid today, which is amazing. It's great that I can drink that much fluid now. Now, when it comes to this fluid that goes to my body, there is 3 levels to it. There's weak, strong, and medium. Weak, medium, strong. The strong one pulls 4.5 liters a day of fluid, which is a lot of fluid, but it's very aggressive chemicals. So the doctors told me you don't want to use the strong one all the time because it can actually tear down your peritoneal cavity, which means you can't use this anymore. So they want you to stick to the light medium most of the time. So I typically use the 2.5s. They want me to start using 1.5s more, which would be the weakest solution. But if I do the weak and a half, the weakest solution, then I can drink, and I have to drink less fluid. So it's all really, to me, what I found, the kidney failure, the biggest thing is the fluid management. That is the biggest thing. If you can manage your fluid, then you can manage the disease. The second thing is diet. You don't want to have a lot of sodium, phosphorus, potassium. So fast food is really challenging to eat. You really don't want to eat fast food. But every meal I have to have these binders, which basically they bind to the phosphorus in the food and they take it out of the food. So when you're eating, your body doesn't absorb the phosphorus. These capsules do. So every meal I have to eat. I eat these pills with my meals, every meal. So, and this is called calcium acetate, just in case you guys are wondering. Overall, I'm really happy with peritoneal dialysis compared to hemo. I feel better. I don't have the crashes. I'm self-sufficient. I can drink more fluid. I don't have to see my blood in my hand. I don't have to go to a clinic. But when I plug myself in and out every night, I have to make sure that it's sterile. I have to keep my hands clean. I have to be careful, make sure my hands are washed. But, you know, all things considered, that's not the worst thing in the world. I don't wear a mask. They tell me to wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask. Come on. I don't wear the mask. I don't wear gloves. I'm just very careful. And I keep my dogs away from me when I'm plugging in. My dogs don't shed, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But, just got to make sure that you don't get any type of bacteria into this hole, because if it gets into the plug, it can go into your cavity and it can cause peritonitis, which apparently is very, very painful. And knock on wood, I have not had any peritonitis yet. Yes, I can shower normally. I can get this thing wet. I can go to the pool. I can go take a shower. It's amazing. I shower every day now, which is wonderful. Once it fully heals, you can get it wet, which is awesome. But it still is a nuisance because sometimes this plug will get tugged on and I can feel it like my stomach getting tugged, and it feels really, really nasty. It's a nasty feeling. But I will say that once this heals, your muscles and skin grow around it and it basically becomes part of your body. So it's not like it could just be pulled out easily. To pull this out, you really have to rip it out, which I think would be a very nasty injury, and I'd have to be hospitalized for that. But that's why, if you guys remember the video where I was in Ybor City, and the kid wanted to fight me, right? He wanted to fight. Now, no one, unless you knew that I had this disease, you wouldn't know that I had a plug in my body. But I don't want to ever get into a fight with somebody, because what if they grab it or acts like, something can happen? To me, there's a great risk of getting into any type of physical encounter. I wouldn't want to. I'm not a violent person anyway. But that's why I am disabled. I can't act normally compared to other people. I have to be careful of this, So, that's something to keep in mind. Bath and swimming are not good for the peritoneal catheter. So they said that I can go into swimming pools if it's a private pool, or if it's a chlorinated pool, or if it's an ocean. If it's a public pool where I can't smell the chlorine, they said don't go into it because it's probably going to have some bacteria. But if it's a public pool that's heavily chlorinated and you can smell it, they said that's going to be safe. So I think the guidelines can change based on the doctors. The level of risk they're willing to give you can change based on the doctors. But but the thing is, I don't go to pools anyway. Pools were a really big part of my life. Not a big ocean guy anyway, so it didn't bother me. But the showers did bother me, and I need to shower. I just love showers. If there's a power outage, I have manual bags. So I do have emergency manual bags that I can use. Basically, when I use the manual bags, you use gravity. So you put the bags above you, and it'll drip the fluid into your stomach. It takes about 20 minutes to go in. And then you sit there for an hour and a half. You wait. You can do whatever you want. You can go out for a drive, go for a walk. And then after an hour and a half, you just hook up a drain bag, and gravity just pushes it out of your body. And it drains it into a drain bag onto the floor in a bag. And then you throw it out and rinse and repeat. Now, some people do that all the time. Some people don't use the machine. Some people only do manuals 24 hours a day. But that's the thing. They're full 24 hours a day because their dwells are about 4 to 6 hours. Each time the fluid's in their body, it's in their body for about 4 to 6 hours each time. So that means every 4 to 6 hours per day, you need to find a place where you can make a transfer. To me, that's really annoying, which is why I prefer the cycler at night. It does all the work for me. It does all the changes for me. I don't have to. I plug in once at midnight, and I plug out at 9:30, and I'm done. So all things considered, this is the lowest maintenance, in my opinion. It's the most time-consuming, technically, because I'm on the machine for 9.5 hours, but this is the lowest maintenance. So just to really recap this for those watching and making a choice, my personal recommendation is PD. And this is what everyone told me before I did it. They said, you're going to want to do PD. You're going to love PD the most. Because once again, I don't have to have that ugly arm. I don't have to go to a clinic. I don't have the crashes. I can drink more fluid, which to me is the best part. I can drink more fluid. It's cleaning the toxins every day instead of every other day. So, overall, I think that I'm healthier and feeling better on PD. And I don't crash as much. Now, I will say when I was on hemo, I did sometimes experience that high where you were so clean. You're like, oh, I feel amazing. But it wasn't worth it for those crashes that I suffered. The crashes were horrible, 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 horrible. And they would wipe me out. So this is it. This is what I'm going to be on, guys, until I have a kidney transplant. And, I need to start. I'm on the list in New York right now. But again, if somebody wants to volunteer to give me a kidney, then I can get one sooner. The way that works is you would have to, first of all, you'd have to go to the doctor and see if you're even eligible to give a kidney. Now, here's what's interesting, guys. There's 18 of you. Here is what's interesting about kidney transplant, all right? The amount of tests they give you is unbelievable. So even if you ultimately are not eligible to give a kidney, you will find out if you are healthy or not in general. So what they say is that kidney donors, the process of being a kidney donor is when people find out they have other diseases. That is one of the number one ways people find out that they have cancers, that they have kidney problems, that they have immune problems that they didn't know about, because the panel is so intense. So to all the 16 watching, I would recommend consider donating a kidney, because even if you don't end up doing it, you might find that you have problems yourself that you can now work on to avoid. Okay? Now, if you do want to volunteer on giving me a kidney or anyone a kidney, there is something called a swap program where you bring a kidney into the system, and even if it's not a fit for me, I get the credit for bringing it into the system, and then I get a kidney from the system sooner. It's called a swap program, and it's wonderful. So if anybody here is watching and wants to do a kidney donation, please, I beg you to contact me. And your kidney might not even go to me. It might go to somebody else in the U.S. that needs one. and you'll be giving them the gift of life. Seriously, you'll be giving someone a gift of life. Because odds are, none of you are a match for me. It's just the odds. 16 of you, odds are none of you match me. But 16 of you will match 16 other people in this country, without a question. But let's say you go to the doctor, you go through the tests. They might say to you, hey, guess what? Your kidneys are failing. You can't donate. Wow, I didn't know that, doctor. Hey, we just did your blood work. You have blood cancer. We didn't know that. We just found it. Hey, thanks. Now we can start treatment for me for that. Hey, we just found a tumor, a mass that's growing in your stomach. Oh, you didn't know that? No, because you had no symptoms. This is what happens. You go to donate a kidney, and then you find out that you have issues yourself. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win for you. You can't lose. So I encourage all of you to consider, number one, getting your blood checked, just standard blood test. But number two, consider donating a kidney, because you can live a normal life with one, especially if you're healthy. You don't need both. You know, that to me is the craziest part, is like I see these people on the street that are morbidly obese. They don't have kidney failure. You know, I took an interest in my health my entire life for the most part. I did drink too much when I was younger. I'll admit that. And I did have too much fast food. I'll admit that as well. But I did take an interest in cardio and weightlifting. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up with kidney failure. So, you know, it's just luck of the draw in a way. So if, 16 of you watching, if any of you would consider donating a kidney, please contact me on Instagram or Facebook. Just DM me and say that you're interested in giving the gift of life to somebody. And then I can connect you to my hospital. My hospital is national chain, global. So they'll then start setting up the meetings for you in your city, wherever you are, doesn't matter. And it's a 3 to 6 month process anyway. It's not just like you go, hey, I'll give you a kidney, boom, next thing you're on the table. No, it's 3 to 6 months of blood work, tests, some procedures to make sure that you can give one. And you know what they say? They say that there's more tests for the donor than the recipient, which is crazy. So the donor has to go through more than the recipient does. Just so you know. So the two type of donors you can have are cadaver kidneys and live donor kidneys. Live donor kidneys can last up to 30 years. So to me, that would take me through 70 years old. Up to. Cadaver kidneys are if someone dies and then their kidney becomes available to use. Those typically last 10 to 20 years versus the live cadaver, versus a live donor. They recommend live donor for that exact reason, because odds are you'll need fewer in your life. Cadaver kidneys, you'll probably need 2 in your life, which is, as you can see here, our friend Gottlish Hammer is on the second one, it sounds like. Both of them might have been cadaveric. Now, the waiting list in New York is about 7 years. So I might be on this for 7 years if I have to wait my turn. In Florida, it's about 5 years. And the reason why is because we have a no helmet law in Florida for motorcyclists. They don't have to wear a helmet. So there's more accidents. So kidneys are more available in Florida. That's crazy to me. So wear your helmet. Or don't, because then, more kidneys become available. But no, seriously, wear your helmet. I would like not to wait. I would really like not to wait 7 years. You guys know that I want to go to the Philippines to find a partner, or Southeast Asia in general. She could be Vietnamese. I'm not that, strict about it. But, it's crazy. Is like, if I had known 2018 to 2021. If I had known that I was going to be dealing with this disease now, when I was already in Southeast Asia, basically I was there for 3 years in a row. If I had known that this was my future, I would have gotten married and impregnated a girl while I was there, without question. I should have, in hindsight. I would have had a built-in caretaker, which, believe me, there were days last year where I needed one. Let me tell you guys, the pain that I was in, there were days I needed a caretaker. Could have already had a kid, not had to worry about that. In Thailand, if you're a citizen, they do this for free. Every citizen gets access to this for free, PD. So, in hindsight, I would have done that. But I didn't. I thought I was healthy and I thought I had all the time in the world. So now I don't want to wait 7 years to be free again. I don't want to have to wait 7 years. And now I'm 47 where I'm finally with the kidney and I can start traveling freely. I don't want to wait that long. So to me, I really want a kidney as soon as possible. And I haven't really asked people for one. I haven't put myself out there like that, asking for a live donor. It feels weird to say, can I have an organ? But I'm going to start doing that this year. Every stream, I'm going to remind you guys that I need a kidney. And it doesn't have to be you watching. It could be anybody. Maybe you know somebody that wants to give the gift of life to somebody. And again, the kidney might not even go to me. It probably won't even go to me. But it will go to somebody else that's going through this. And the good news is, if you give a kidney and you have kidney problems later in your life, you go to the front of the line because you donated, which I think is an amazing thing to hear. So keep in mind, if you do donate a kidney, you're not going to be screwed later on. The system will take care of you back. So for those watching, if you know anybody that would consider donating a kidney, let me know. You guys know how to contact me, Adam Francisco. You could be anywhere. You could be anywhere in the country to donate a kidney, and it could still come to me through the swap program. So keep that in mind. You might have a kidney in California. You might donate in California. But if it's a swap program, then I get credit. And then the New York list will push me up, from what I understand. So if you know anybody, let me know. It'll be really nice that day when I find out that somebody wanted to step up and donate. And you'd be my kidney buddy. We'd be kidney friends. And think about how much clout you get, right? Think about the clout you get, that you save someone else's life. You get some clout. Let me say that. You'd literally be a hero if you donated a kidney. So anyway, somebody asked, what are my symptoms? Guy, you can go back to the stream earlier. And I kind of, in the beginning, explained some of these symptoms I went through early on. But that's it, guys. PD's great. I'm very thankful for it. And I'm very happy to be alive. And that's that. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to pass out now like my little baby girl, Cloud. She's so sweet. You're such a good girl. Look at how she puts her little arm out. She's so cute. Cloud, are you a good girl? Are you a little slinky? She lets me do anything to her. It's amazing. She's such a good little girl. What a good girl. She's so cute. She's like literally She's like a little baby. She really is the best. Yeah, it's like a swap program, like swapping. That's what they call it, swap. You can Google kidney swap, and anybody can donate. It doesn't have to be my match. By the way, for the record, I am O positive. I'm not sure. I mean, look, the first step would be people volunteering. That's the first step. The first step would be somebody DMing me saying, Adam, I'm interested in donating a kidney, or I have someone who wants to donate a kidney. That's the first step. Once we have that conversation, then I connect with the social worker. And that's when it all gets started, the whole process. And here, I'll just kidney swap program. So if you type in kidney swap program, you will find a lot of different sources for it. So just type in kidney swap program, and you go to kidney.org. Programs for donor recipient pairs with incompatible blood types. Kidney pair donation. See? There you go. Donor 1 is not a match for recipient 1, but donor 2 is, so they just swap. And this could happen many, many times. So it's called a need chain, a non-directed potential donor is matched with the recipient who has a willing but incompatible donor. So you can find everything you want at kidney.org. Contact the transplant hospital that has an exchange program. Contact organization would help. But really, in this situation, Raindrop's laying on the bed, on the floor. Raindrop likes the cool floor. So in this situation, the number one thing to do is to contact me and say that you're interested in donating a kidney, or you have a friend who is, and that's where it starts. That's it. It's that simple. And then I'll connect you to my social worker, my dialysis center, my hospital, and they will contact you in your local area, and they'll set up the first meeting, which is really consultation, where I believe they'll just talk you through the whole process. Again, you're not committed to anything until you're in the operating table, which takes 3 to 6 months down the road. And finally, if they say that you can donate, because that's the thing, can you or can't you? A lot of times people can't, but let's say you can, and then you start preparing for the surgery. And, they knock you out. They take out your kidney. They ship it to me, or I go to you. Whatever that happens. And then you spend a couple weeks recovering. I'm sure your job will give you paid coverage. I'm sure there's some kind of tax benefit. I don't know about that part. I can't pay, by the way. It's illegal to have any type of payment. So it has to be done out of the goodness of your heart. That's one of the things about it. And somebody messaged me on Instagram today, actually, offered me a kidney for sale from Indonesia. It's like, what? They said that they wanted to sell me their kidney because they're desperate for money. And, there is a market for that. I don't want to engage in that because it makes me uncomfortable, that idea, to pay somebody for their organ who's desperate. I don't want to do that. Plus, also, if I were to go overseas to do that, I don't trust the medical system as much as I trust the U.S. So, that's a no for me. It has to be out of the goodness of the heart. I actually didn't do that yet. There's a few companies that wanted to work with me. I think one is called Renewal. And I think I'm actually going to move forward with one of them for this exact reason, so I can give out a phone number and a place. So that's what I'm saying, Pi Susan, is that I'm not comfortable with that whole industry as a whole to begin with. And it is illegal. You cannot take money for an organ. Even if one of you volunteers, I cannot give you money in exchange for that. It is illegal. So it has to be only done out of the goodness of, out of your heart. So keep that in mind. It has to just be because you want to do it, because you want to save someone's life. That is the only motivation, and the only reward you can give is just, that's it, goodness of your heart. So, but regardless, I would not go overseas and do that. I'm not interested in that. I want to do it the right way. I think that this is, and if I have to wait 7 years, I'll wait 7 years, but I don't want to wait 7 years. I'd love for a live donor to volunteer, So anyway, guys, everyone, thanks for joining. This is a non-political stream tonight. I'll be back with political streams coming up soon. Just been tired lately and been sleeping a lot. And, trying to get to the gym every day and just take care of things. But I love you guys. Thanks for watching. And Ken Johnson, thank you again for that really big super chat. I appreciate you so much. It means a lot to me, especially in Joe Biden's economy. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. And as always, God bless Trump.